a design-driven approach to help brands create experiences that drive business outcomes or solve business problems, right? So for us, it's all about the user. We start from the user, we figure out what are the problems he or she faces, and we design experiences which help solve those problems, right? And then we use technology to support those experiences. So the digital brand building strategy for Moondraft basically revolves around three pillars, right? So the first is our value proposition, or our key differentiator is that we work at the intersection of design, art, and technology. So we bring design and technology together right from the start, so that the experiences that we design, there is no loss in translation as in when it goes live. So what this means is that what you see is actually what you get when it goes live, because otherwise what happens is you design something, and once it actually takes shape and you release it to the market, there's a huge difference. So we ensure that loss in translation doesn't happen. So we bring tech teams and design teams together right from the start of a project and ensure that things go live the way it's supposed to be, right? The second important thing, or the second pillar for brand building strategy of Moondraft is very strongly our company culture, right? So we focus on having people who adhere to our company culture of being creative, trying out new things, exploring things, and more importantly, having fun in what they do, right? So we have a very interesting interview process where we identify people, obviously in terms of their talent, but cultural fit to our organization is extremely, extremely important. And we ensure that we only recruit those people who fit in with our company culture, right? And the third important pillar is that, we figured out very early that, it's for a services company, and especially a design and customer experience company, it's the work that should do the talking. So we focus a lot on the kind of work that we produce. So you'll see a lot of focus on case studies, on blogs, on our thought process. Our digital marketing strategy primarily revolves around thought leadership at the core, right? And it's this thought leadership which powers the brand and also helps us in lead generation and lead nurturing, right? These days, thanks to digital, the line between digital marketing and sales is actually blurring, right? Digital marketing not only enables sales, but a lot of time it also actually does the sales part of it. So what it does is that we also help in acquiring leads, and not just acquiring leads, but also enabling the entire lead nurturing process to convert that lead, right? So this entire 9 yards is what our digital marketing strategy is about. We use thought leadership at every point of the customer life cycle and the customer journey, and also the sales life cycle, to convert customers. India, maximum adoption we obviously see in terms of industries which are consumer facing. So industries like banking and financial services, or retail, or other industries which have direct consumer facing touch points. They are the ones who have been early adopters. Banking and financial services definitely have been early adopters for us. But we are also seeing B2B companies jumping into the foray and actually taking note of how design and customer experience is important. Because you need to understand that a B2B consumer is also a B2C consumer, right? So his expectations of customer experience, or his expectations of what digital experience should be, is shaped by what he experiences as a consumer outside of work, right? So I might be a B2B customer, but I'm also a customer who uses, say, Google or Uber, and I'm used to that level of customer experience, and I want my B2B experiences to be like that as well, which is where we see B2B companies also coming into this whole foray of actually driving great customer experience through their digital channels. Some of our marquee cases, we've worked with most of the large banks in India, and we're working with banks across the globe. So if you actually see in India, probably you name the bank, we've worked with them. We are also working with a lot of large auto companies. In fact, Mahindra Reva, which was the first electric car in India, we developed the telematic app for them. So that's where the journey started, and then it's been an uphill from there as well. We've worked with large hospitality and hotel chains. We've worked with large consumer paints companies. So we've worked across the industry. It is best explained through one of my favorite quotes by the legendary Dieter Rams, which says, good design is invisible. So UI UX design is basically figuring out what the user wants to do, anticipating what the challenges he might face, and designing an experience or designing a journey which solves that problem. And as Dieter Rams says, the best design is one which is invisible. So you shouldn't even realize that there was some effort being put to actually make that happen. It should just be smooth and in a jiffy. Potential and growth drivers in India, definitely, the adoption of digital is a huge factor. The availability of internet and high speed internet and high bandwidth is definitely creating that base for digital adoption to grow, and significantly creating that base for UI UX to grow as well, right? So when people start using more digital apps, when they actually see what difference a well-designed app or a well-designed website makes, right? The other thing is also the exposure to different apps, right? The exposure to international companies coming in and getting top-notch, well-designed applications on board. So obviously the consumer expectation goes higher, and that's what's driving user experience even in terms of Indian companies and the growth of the UI UX industry in India. So we bring design, art, and technology together, and only when you have that understanding are you able to deliver experiences that really make sense. The second big differentiator is obviously our people. I think people in any services industry is the key factor which differentiates one agency or one vendor from the other. So we definitely have great people, and we ensure that quality is maintained in terms of who we recruit and how we recruit. One of the things we do is that we actually try and tap in a lot of designers who actually study abroad and come back in India and want a similar a design experience or a similar workplace experience like what you have abroad, and we try and give them that. So we have a lot of designers who've come back from abroad. We try and tap best talent from design and tech schools in India as well, and then we groom them to be industry ready. The third important differentiator is that we generally innovate with our engagement models. In a lot of cases, we do have outcome-based models where we say, once we reduce your, say, bounce rates by so and so percent, we should get paid, or we have an engagement model where our payment depends on how successful you are. So we do apply skin in the game, which typically not many agencies or not many firms do. For Moongraft, not much has changed thanks to this COVID. I mean, during this COVID crisis, we've typically been a very digital company, and we've been digital first, and we use a lot of digital application tools and even remote working in a lot of engagements that we do. So it's not been much of a change for us, other than the fact that obviously offices have shut and people are working from home. But even before the crisis hit, we have been engaging with customers and delivering projects without even meeting them face to face even once, right? So in that ways, it's not really impacted us. But I think one of the things what we've done is we've become a little more empathetic to the customer situation. So that results in tweaking a lot of business models, trying to have much more skin in the game in terms of the engagement as well. So for example, one of the things what we are doing right now is that we are actually saying, before we engage with you, why don't we give you a free point of view or a free design direction as to how we will solve this problem, and that will all be in our own investment and our own cost. So once you see that, and once you are happy about it and you believe that okay, that will make sense for your business, then we'll go ahead and engage. So there are tweaks in our engagement model which we've done. We are a global firm, and we've got businesses and customers in all across the globe. But one of the things for India, what we're trying to do is that if you look at it, India's always been known as a tech giant, right? As a place from where great technology talent comes out. We want to actually change that and move to say that okay, India should get recognized for even design talent as well, which so far it's not been. But we have been pushing towards that. We feel that from the supply side, there is definitely very good design talent here. It's just that they don't get enough opportunities to work on the kind of work that gets global recognition, right? So we try and tap great talent from India and try and give them that opportunity. So I think from a supply side, in terms of talent, yes, there is great hope. From the demand side, consumers are also becoming more and more cognizant of what design should be, and that's driving UI UX growth in India. And because consumers are demanding it, businesses are also getting into the foray, right? And there are enough studies that actually show that how when businesses incorporate design early on in their process, or have design a seat in the table of the boardroom, those businesses actually are almost 30% better in terms of revenue, as against people who don't do it. So people are seeing the need for design and the benefits that it provides, and I think that's what's scaling the UI UX industry in India. The dynamics of advertising and marketing that has changed post COVID-19 is that people have become a bit more prudent about how they're spending in advertising and marketing. I think there is more focus on very targeted campaigns and very targeted communication, rather than the typical spray and pray approach or mass media approach, which was there earlier. People are going back to basics. They're creating better content. They're trying to basically spend less and get more ROI. So that is one change which has happened. But I also see one problem which is cropping up, where people are literally trying to convert physical things to digital, right? So for example, there was you'll take the example of online events. There was a very interesting article by Benedict Evans where he says, when you translate physical events to online events, what you're missing out is that physical events are actually a bundle of multiple things, right? So it's a bundle of content, it's a bundle of networking, it's a bundle of bumping into people and having conversations. So when you translate that literally to digital, what happens is you're just solving the content problem, because that's what is possible digitally, but you are not solving the networking problem, or you're not solving the bumping into some interesting person and talking to him, right? So what you typically need to do is you need to forget what you've learned earlier and think afresh from a completely digital standpoint, and see how do we solve these problems digitally, and only then will it be successful, right? So don't try and translate things from physical to digital, but think afresh from digital and see how digital marketing can change that. The new normal in digital has done, it's more from the consumer side, I feel, right? So digital being a new normal means actually that there are people who did not use digital earlier but are forced to use them, right? And that is what marketers need to now think about. So for example, think of a senior citizen, or think about your parents or your grandparents who've never really used digital, but now are forced to use it for their banking transactions, or forced to use it for everything that they do. So how do you actually create experiences that are for those guys as well? How do you create a much more inclusive environment that addresses their needs? And even marketing should enable communication and support for those new segments. So you probably need to rewire yourself a little more as to think of that you've now got a much broader canvas, and you have to be much more inclusive and accessible. And how do you work towards that? As marketers, we now need to focus really on strategies that are low investment and high returns. We need to be doubly prudent about the metrics which are there. We need to show that whatever we're investing in actually adds value. Try low-cost digital tools which are available. There are plenty of them available, and they're really, really good. Try and get a mix of those kind of digital tools, and probably relook your stack and see how you can be much more cost effective but drive the same value. I think those are the things we need to look at. Think about, probably break it up into short, medium, and long-term strategies. So in short-term strategies, how do you quickly get everything up without spending much? And in medium-term and long-term, try and figure out, okay, if these things are working well, how do we continue them, and how do we replace some other stacks in the longer term in the longer term? So that's what I think we need to do. To choose between existing and new customers, I think marketers, you need to focus on both, right? But I would say you prioritize existing customers over new customers, because existing customers you already have a relationship with, and it's better. I mean, you already have, they are already looking at you to support them. So your priority should be at existing customers, and see how you can actually modify or tweak your services to engage and help them. Having said that, you should always be out there to help new customers as well, because now that a lot of businesses are scrambling to get digital, they are actually also looking at vendors who can help them do that, right? So we are actually getting a lot of inquiries where people are trying to see how we can help them get digital. So we are definitely out there. There is thought leadership content going out, and if people need us, we are there to help them. So that's where our inbound strategy is working. But in terms of priority, yes, existing customers are first, and that's where we are basically reaching out to them and saying that we can help you. These are the things we can do, and let's make our relationship stronger. I disagree with the fact that marketing is a cost center. I think when you track proper metrics, when you show proper ROI, even the leadership and the management starts looking at marketing not as a cost center but a profit center, right? I think there is a shift which has happened from earlier days to the current time, where there was a lot of subjectivity associated with marketing earlier, which has been removed with the advent of digital, right? So with digital, you can actually track each and everything you do. You can actually measure each and everything you do. So that shift has enabled people to actually measure the effectiveness of marketing and the value that it brings, right? So figure out what are the right metrics, measure them to the nail, and show the leadership or the management that marketing is bringing in tangible value. And that's what I think will shift that whole perception that marketing is a cost center and it's not a profit center.
For more updates from CXO TV, please like and subscribe to our channel.